Welcome back to the Elise Surkov podcast, where we help women thrive unapologetically from the inside out in perimenopause and menopause. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that I definitely speak a lot about. And I know this is going to ruffle your feathers. I'm probably going to get some eye rolls and likely some hate. And that's totally fine because I'm here to shine a mirror on you and help you. That's what I want. Remember, I'm here to help you. And that is, I want to redefine what restriction actually means. Okay. Because I see this every single day where women will say to me, but Elise, that's so restrictive. And you don't expect me to live the rest of my life without ever doing blank or without ever having blank or without. And I'm like, all right, pause, time out. We need to redefine restriction. All right. So why is it so hard to say that word restriction? Um, I was talking about this actually at home with one of my kids. It's horrible if I say I forget which one, right? But perimenopause. But we were talking about something that's probably with my daughter, and we were talking about something with school, and it was like, it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I said, you know what? Let's just stop calling it frustrating and call it another word. And if we call it another word, we give it another meaning. And I want you to think of the same thing with restriction. When you think of restriction, you're like, can't have carbs, can't have to fast, can't have sugar, can't have anything flour based like that. That would be more restriction. Okay. Or me saying like, you're not allowed to eat for the next, 10 hours. And then, you're going to have a window for 8 hours. Like that would be more what I would potentially call restrictive. But saying no to yourself more often might feel restrictive because your baseline of what is okay has gone so fucking out of control. So imagine you have a 2-year-old and you give the 2-year-old a lollipop, and the 2-year-old finishes the lollipop. They're so happy and they're like, more. And you're like, no. And they have a temper tantrum and you're like, I'm not giving you another lollipop. It's like, it's not going to happen. Right. 2-year-old you could be like, that's so restrictive and that's not fair. And you're like, it's not restrictive. It's just there's limitations here. You can't keep having lollipops every single day when you're 2 or even when you're an adult. So I think what happens is over time, this is what I see in our community as well. As we're aging, we approach, over the age of 40, our kids are getting older, our lifestyle's starting to change. Our routine is changing. We're not like running around physically like we used to chasing toddlers. We're now driving more, or our kids don't need us as much. We're going back out again. We're reestablishing our identity. We're changing jobs. We're changing relationships. Things get a little bit more lax and loose, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to go out for dinner more. I'm going to go get that cup of coffee that I don't usually get for myself anymore. I'm going to stop and have that extra treat. And you say yes a lot to yourself. You're like, yes, I'm going to have this. Yes, I'm going to have this. Yes, I'm going to have this. And then when someone is like, hey, no, now you're on a diet and you can't have that shit anymore, they're like, I lost weight, but it was so restrictive. It's like, was it restrictive or was it just what should be normal baseline? So let's back this up a little bit. Okay. So I will say, what most people think is restrictive is probably normal and what normal needs to be in order to maintain your weight. So, for example, my kids truly believe that dessert should be after every single meal, right? And it's like, that's just kind of what we taught them, unfortunately, over the years was like, hey, you get a treat after lunch and you get a treat after dinner. But that's not normal. And imagine if like we would say that to all of our clients, you get to have dessert after lunch and dessert after dinner and then a snack. It's like, hey, could you just have lunch without having dessert? Could you go out for dinner and not have a glass of wine? Like, is that restrictive or is that just baseline normal? So, what happens is that we live in a world of comfort because we're human and we want to survive. And we don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. So it's not enough to just be okay. We want to be amazing. We want to be comfortable. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to have that extra dessert. I'm going to have that extra glass of wine. I'm going to have an extra serving of this. Why not? I've had a hard day. And we're so used to being comfortable. So when a client comes to me and they say to me, this just feels really restrictive. I know we have to have the really hard, honest truth about what that actually looks like. And we need to redefine that. So, what I'll typically say back to them is, how uncomfortable can you make yourself throughout the day? And they kind of look at me like, life is so fucking hard. How much more uncomfortable can I make myself? I'm like, no, 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 just you, not life, right? We're not talking about work or kids or family responsibilities. We're talking about like how uncomfortable do you make yourself when you're making dinner and you want to snack on something, do you say no to yourself? Or are you like, well, I'm making dinner, I might as well just make the most out of it, pop, pop. Or, I've had such a hard day, so I'm just gonna have a little glass of wine. It's been so hard, like how uncomfortable are you sitting in your own shit and saying no to yourself? And if you're like very rarely, then chances are you really need to define restriction. So imagine if, I remember I had a client who did this where she was like, I have to have popcorn in the afternoon for my snack. And I'm like, why? And of course, this was like in the Weight Watchers and days. And if you follow Weight Watchers and you ever had, you're like, popcorn is like 1 point and it's so light and fluffy and la la. So it was like they were tricking themselves into thinking I'm having a high volume food for very little calorie, right? And I'm like, okay, so every day you're having popcorn. Why? Because I want a snack. Why? Are you hungry or are you conditioned yourself to be hungry? Chances are you're hungry because your meals are shit, because you're dieting down nonstop. But we're going to fix that. So we're going to build your meals up. Now you're not hungry. Why are you still eating popcorn? Well, I just like to have the little treat. It's like the afternoon and then I'm working really hard and I go get a coffee and then I have my popcorn and then I'm good. I'm like, okay, well, that little popcorn is considered like your daily quote unquote treat. So, like after dinner, don't you dare have a square of chocolate or a glass of wine or, an extra serving of rice. Like that, you're done for the day. Right. And I will get eyes on me like, well, that's just restrictive. And I'm like, but that's the baseline. That is what normal. Like we are not designed to live in a world of extreme comfort. We're here to survive. However, we have a metabolic, for lack of a better word, superpower, which is allowing us to overeat so that we can survive. Because we are designed for feast or famine. So our metabolism is designed for us to overeat and undereat so that we can survive. Unfortunately, we do not need this anymore, most of us anyways, because we live in a world of abundance. If you wanted more food, you can go get it. So imagine if we had like a curtain or like a door that closed on our mouths when we hit our caloric allotment. And if my caloric allotment is 2,200 calories and I hit that by 4 p.m., it's like, you're done. And I'd be like, well, that's not fair because I still want to eat. But your body's like, yeah, no, but you're cool. If you eat any more, you're going to gain weight and we don't want that. So then you're like, fuck, all right, now I got to play around with that. Same thing with like undereating, right? You don't just undereat and like fall over. Your metabolism is designed for that because that could be the famine that's coming up. Maybe you don't have access to food. Maybe you're hibernating. Maybe you're traveling. Maybe you're going through something stressful and you're not thinking about food in the same way. So because we have this superpower, we've learned to abuse it. We've learned to be comfortable with it. You're like, I can eat this and I'm good. I'm fine. And then in 2, 3, 4 years from now, you don't understand why you're up 10 pounds by changing nothing. The nothing that you haven't changed is the restriction that you need to redefine. And by redefining it, it's going to make your life a lot easier. It's like if I said, hey, this pen is red, you believe it to be red. What if the pen is blue? It is up to you and your interpretation. So when people say to me, like, what is restriction? I'm like, restriction is 1,200 calories. That is restriction. That is not enough calories for you to thrive on. That is not enough calories for your hormones to be optimized on. That is not enough calories for you to build muscle on, but it is enough calories to just survive. So if you needed to, you can do that, but it is restrictive. Restrictive, in my opinion, is not saying no to the popcorn and to the chocolate and to the drink of alcohol. Like that is not, in my opinion, what restrictive is. Although I do see a lot of women coming in with that notion. And imagine, I remember when I stopped having shit after every meal. And I was like, this fucking sucks. You want me to have dinner and then not have some like chocolate after dinner and just finish and go to bed? Like, what a horrible, boring life that is, right? Or is that normal baseline for me? And I've taught myself over the years how to seek more comfort. So when you start using words, strong words like restriction, I want you to really ask yourself, hey, is this really restriction or is this me defining it as a lack of comfort? I don't like being uncomfortable. Therefore, I'm going to call it restriction. When in reality, girl, I'm telling you, it is your baseline needs to be readjusted. And if you had this view, you could actually do this on your own very successfully. So let's say, for example, let's use me. It took me 4 fucking years to stop eating like an asshole. I feel like we all know that on the weekends. But it wasn't just that one habit. I truly felt that Friday night through Sunday was like my right to eat whatever I want. Anything less would feel restrictive. I also felt that after every single meal except for breakfast, I should have something, tasty, yummy, satisfying. That wasn't restriction, that was just part of it. So over the years, as I started to change and redefine it, it was like, hey, weekends are going to be the same as every single day. There's no overeating on the weekends. And I'm like, oh my God, that sucks. That's so restrictive. And I'm like, let's just see what happens. And oh my God, I lost a shit ton of weight and I don't gain it back anymore. Like, that's amazing. Now, it doesn't mean I don't eat my favorite foods. You guys know I love chips. I'm not fucking eating chips every single day. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem, right? Again, redefining that restriction after I kind of, for lack of a better word, mastered after 4 years eating like an asshole on the weekends with lots of repetitions. I then went on to a new habit. Okay, let me not have something sweet after lunch. What's going to happen? I'm going to sit in my shit and be uncomfortable. Okay, I'm uncomfortable. And then I got over it and I was like, let me not have that for dinner and see what happens. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm really able to make my physique lean here. This is great. I love this feeling. I love the way I feel. I don't have digestive issues anymore. And now when I have something like sweet or like after a meal, it's like a once in a while. It's maybe once or twice a week. And you might say, well, that is so restrictive. And I could argue and say, that is normal. That is what it takes to maintain your body. And you might say, that fucking sucks. And I don't want to do that. In which case, free will here, my girl. You can do you. But if you're coming to me and you're saying, I want to have a physique that is leaner, I want to lose the weight I've gained over the last 5 to 10 years, and I don't want to gain it back again, you need to have this conversation with you. All right. I hope I didn't piss you off too much. But as always, please let me know below in the comments. Just write me a review. Tell me. And of course, if you want to watch this on YouTube and you want to see my amazing facial expressions, go ahead and watch this on YouTube. And then I'm going to link all my links below that you can catch me on Instagram or download some of my amazing freebies. I'd love to help you if you're interested in learning more about our program. I will leave the information there as well.